got your attention with the headline of the title of this video, and that's about being able to create an income for yourself, a substantial income, and legally not have to pay taxes on that income ever again. And there are, I'm going to explain exactly how you do it. I'm being very transparent here. I've been doing this along with a bunch of my own contractor buddies for years, and it's perfectly acceptable by the IRS and the government. It's an allowable provision. It's a law, actually, that they put into place years ago, and it's still valid law. And keeping it fresh, if you will. They have to validate it every so many years. And it allows you to exclude your income from taxes under certain circumstances, and I'm going to tell you what those are. And there's a few different ways to do it, so I would suggest you stick around to the end of the video, because you're going to hear about this all the way through the video, so you don't want to skip out early and miss some important content here that's going to be valuable to you. And I've been doing this for a number of years. I haven't had a mortgage in a very long time, and when I did have a mortgage, it was a small one, because I did the first house that my wife and I built. We built while we were raising 4 kids and both working full time, and managed to squeeze off money throughout the year over several years to do what we were going to do. And here's what it is. And there's some variations on the theme, so again, stick around, because we'll talk about the different ways you can do this. Don't run away because I just said mortgage and real estate and building and all this stuff, because there's some things you can do even if you don't have any experience and you really don't have any money to make this work. So here, and I'm going to give you what that is right now. You can buy a house even on a loan and get into it with as little down as you can possibly get away with. Sometimes you can even get these on owner contracts, so you don't even have to deal with a bank. But let's just say, for instance, one method of doing this would be to buy a house that's in need of some repairs and remodeling, so an older home that's got good bones and just needs some updating maybe, and so you're going to go in and you're going to do some cleaning up and remodeling on this house. And you can live in the house while you're doing it, so that you don't have to worry about paying for another place to stay while you're paying to build this house or fix this house up. So you can live in the house. I've done it a few times. I've taught my kids to do it and other people. So if you take a house that's an older home that needs some updating, some fresh paint, and maybe some remodeling, some kitchen and bath redos, and some various things, maybe need some flooring and so on and so forth. Nothing architectural, if you will, necessarily, that you're going to have to really have some building skills, and just remodel the house. And you need to look at the budget, be budget minded about it. You don't want to overbuild or over remodel the house for the neighborhood that it's sitting in, because you'll have a harder time selling it when the time comes. But here's the deal. So you fix up this house, and my son just recently did this a couple of years ago, and bought a house that was about 100 years old, a little over 100 years old. Got a really good deal on it, and went to remodeling it. So he painted the entire outside. He added a little bit of a covered porch off the back of the house. It had a cement slab, a patio, but it didn't have a cover on it. So he decided that was one of the things he wanted to do to kind of extend the living space and add value to the house. And then he did basically an in and out on the house. So he built that, and then he remodeled the kitchen. We had to pull up the tile floor. There was a lot of cracked and broken tiles in it, and he decided, let's get it out of here. So we ripped the floor up, put in a new sub deck, which again takes a little bit more, but we did a vinyl plank floor, and then we put in brand new cabinets. The cabinets that were in there were old cabinets from original build, and so they were definitely dated. They were just painted white old cabinets. Put some new appliances in, repainted the inside of the house, put some new flooring in a couple of the rooms. What else did he do? Did a little bit of electrical work, updating some of that in the house. Added some new fixtures as far as lights, and redid the bathroom floor, put in a new vanity. That's about it. And then he added, he had a little bit of he put a shop in the backyard, so that added quite a bit of value. So that wasn't necessarily something you have to do, but that's what he did, because he was planning on staying there, and then wound up finding out that the market was pretty hot at the time, and decided that he wanted to get out of the city, and so he sold the house, and he made over $200,000 off the house in the sale, and he didn't have to pay any taxes on that. Here's why. He lived in the house for 4 years. The minimum requirement is that you live in the residence for 2 years, 24 months. If you do that and you sell the house, you can exclude the gain or the profit off that house sale. If you're a single person, up to $250,000. If you're a couple married, $500,000. So you can literally take that money and put it in the bank and not have to pay taxes on it at the end of the year during the sale, because there's a thing called the Homesteader Act. And that was a provision that put in way back, I want to say in the 80s somewhere, if I remember right. I'd have to look it up. But bottom line is, you can do that. So that's one way. You can do that, or you can build a house, which is what I do. I like to build, like to develop property. So I'll buy a lot, and then I will build a house. Now, I've done this several times, and I'm in the process of doing it right now. I'm standing in the project that I'm working on currently. And here's the interesting thing. I have not paid rent, mortgage payments, or had to pay for my living expenses, so my housing, for a decade at least, that I can think of right off the top of my head. And the reason is I build, stay in the house long enough to qualify, and then sell the house, and then I take that profit and the original money that I put into the project, and I go and find another place. And so I started, and here's the thing, you don't have to have a lot of money or a lot of experience. You can learn all this stuff. You can learn it right on this channel, so you might want to stick around, subscribe, like it, share it with your friends. What I want to do is help people become mortgage free. That's my goal, and I'd like to see how many people I can help become mortgage free, because I think that's a really important step in financial freedom, is not having to be strapped down to a big house payment or rent payment or whatever. So you can do this, and so you can literally never have to make a payment again and own your home outright with no mortgage if you do what I'm doing. And so what I did was I built several small houses in a row. So they were not real big projects. I didn't have a lot of cash outlay. I didn't have a lot of cash because I was literally working a job, and so was my wife, and we were raising a family while we were doing this. So the first one was about 1,000 square feet, and we built that, and over the course of a number of years, as we had the cash to do it, and so we built it big enough, or we got it finished to the point where we could move into it. It wasn't done, but it was done enough that we could live in it. And then finished it off as we had the time and money to do so. And so at a point down the line, we wound up selling it and having a nice profit. Now, we did have a mortgage on that one, partial. I'm going to call it a partial mortgage, because I didn't buy the house on a bank loan. I funded part of the building process after I'd established the original home to do an addition and add some other things to the property. And so I had a small mortgage that I designed to be a 15-year pay out, so I didn't have a long mortgage, and I wound up paying it off before that. So then we moved, took some cash, bought another lot, built a smaller house, and I'm just telling you numbers. So sold that house 3 years ago, I think, 3 or 4 years ago, and I tripled my money on it. I made a really good profit on it. The house itself, not the land and all the improvements to the property, but just the house, the build of the house, including brand new appliances in the house, cost me $32,000 in materials and labor. I did most of the work myself. I got some help from some people, and I had some parts of it that I didn't want to do. I could do them, but I didn't want to do them, and I went ahead and paid subcontractors to come in and do that. And that was the concrete, the roof shingles, and the insulation, because I just didn't want to do it. I did the rest of it myself. So I had $32,000 in that project, including paying for those people to come in and do their parts to help me out. And then my wife and I did the majority of the rest of the work ourselves. We did all the wiring and the framing and the plumbing and the finishing of the interior and exterior and you know, putting together the kitchen and the bathrooms, and did tile work and cabinet hanging and doors and windows. I mean, just, you know, the whole gamut of things. And we tripled our money on that project. So the whole time we lived there, we had that place for 6 years, and it never cost me anything to live there. Because I sold the house, I made a huge profit on it. I didn't have to pay taxes on that because I'd lived there long enough to qualify for that exclusion on my taxes. And so I got that money essentially free of any tax burdens. So that was money I made, and so now I'm currently building the project that you see me standing in right now, which is a much larger project than I had before. So that last house was 600 square feet, by the way. Interior was about 575 square feet to be exact. And then it had about a 300 square foot covered porch on the front. So it was a pretty small house. Again, not a big project, not a lot of cash outlay, and so you could easily, you know, build something that size, turn it in 2 years, take that profit, go out and buy another piece of property or a home that needs to be remodeled, either way, and then build your way into the next piece. And again, if you want to do that every few years, you can always sell the house, exclude the gain, put the money in your pocket, not have to pay taxes, and do it again. And you can continuously do that, which means you can go out and make a very nice living. I'm talking 6 figures, and keep living in freshly remodeled or built houses, and never have to pay. And I did this casually. The last house I built, I spent 2 years building it. I had an RV, a really nice fifth wheel that we lived in right in the driveway next to the project, and so I casually worked on the house. I'm not a young guy anymore, so I'm not gonna work a 40-hour work week banging boards, but I'll get the job done. And I made a handsome profit and lived in that house essentially for free because I didn't have any taxes to pay after the sale. I put the money in my pocket, went on to the next project. You can do that over and over again. You can do that for the rest of your life if you want to. You can get started by helping, you know, with the bank helping you in the first one, or if you've got some cash put together, you can start doing it like I did, where you went out and bought a piece of property and just raw ground, and then I had to bring in the water and the power and the sewer and start the building process all the way from scratch. And I've done that several times, and I've managed to, you know, build my way into another piece of property that I have no mortgage on. I'm paying cash to build, and if and when I decide to sell this property, I'll have that profit from this property, which will be massive, because this is a much larger build out on a larger piece of property that's worth quite a bit more now that I've improved it. And that's the secret to real estate, is developing, remodeling, building, and there's a lot of profit mixed into that. That's why you're paying such exorbitant mortgages today, and the prices of houses are ridiculous because the value's there. And so you know, buying a house, a brand new house, it'll take you years and years and years to come up with equity, and that's basically the house going up in value over time, and you paying that mortgage down over time. But here's the problem. You know, one of my neighbors, I'll tell you a little quick story on that, bought a house 2 doors down from me and was basically bragging about how great a deal he got. He told me how much the house was that he paid for, but that's not really the true price, because whatever you're paying for it, we'll just use some round numbers here. If you bought a house today for $200,000, which, tell me where you can find one of those, because I'll take a few of those myself, and you had a 30-year mortgage on it with the current interest rates that we're running right now, the last payment 30 years from now, you will have spent 3 times as much as you actually paid the original purchase price for. So your interest rates over 30 years will be 2 times higher. So you will have $600,000 in payments going back on a $200,000 purchase and loan for 30 years. That's a little depressing, and it takes a long time to do. 30 years is a long time. And most people never even pay those mortgages off because they wind up taking out equity and second mortgages and you know, spending all that money as it accumulates, and so they just never pay the mortgages off. They just get used to making that payment. They've normalized being in debt, and doesn't have to be that way. You can pay cash for things. So if you want to find out how to do that, I'm building this house out. You'll be able to see the process, and you can start out, like I said, with a smaller project, something considerably smaller than this. Like I said, the house that we built on the coast was under 600 square feet, very small house, but I made very good money on it, and never had a cost of living there for 6 years. I don't have a cost of living where I'm at now. I built a small cabin here on the property to live in while we're building out the rest of the property and building the house, so I can stay on site. And my commute is about 3 minutes from my cabin to this project up the driveway. And I work at this at my pace, and I enjoy the process, and I listen to music while I'm knocking this place together, and every time I pound a nail into a board, I'm making money. So you can do this, you can do it a number of ways, and I think mortgage freedom, along with not having to pay taxes on your income, is a pretty attractive proposal. You just found out how to do that, so follow me for more exciting tips. And hopefully this is of good value to you. If it was, like it, subscribe it, share it, let other people know about the opportunities that you can have this under these provisions. And I will see you